And now, here are your hosts, the Schnitzel Boys.
Well, let's talk about it. I have a whole list of things about speaking of transfers. So we last week it wasn't confirmed. Jimmy Sands, NYCFC's first homegrown personal friend of mine, practically a member of my family, is now going to Rangers in Scotland on an 18-month loan with an option to buy, not an obligation. What is
Awesome.
happening? What? And
Well,
I
it's a good move. I mean, I don't.
is it
I
though?
love when young Americans go to Europe. You know, I would
This
love for
is
James Sands to go to
you.
Rangers and compete for a spot. He's not. There are players ahead of him. He's gonna have to earn his spot at Rangers. He's gonna have to up his game,
I
and that
want
can
to,
only be good for his development.
and I want to challenge this. I want to challenge this notion of
Yeah. So the big topic is going to Europe. What's your thesis question? Is
why.
going to Europe a
Well,
good thing?
the question is why. Why? It's a real question. Why go to Europe?
For
And the
who?
answer is
For everybody?
for anyone. I mean, I think there is this, and you just said it, and I think that's I think of it as the Klinsmann. The Klinsmann doctrine is everybody needs to go to Europe by hook or by crook, taking a plane, taking a boat, however you get there.
Swimming.
If you are an American soccer player, you need to go to Europe. Why?
Let real quick. Why? It's a question of why. Real quick. Klinsmann has refuted that. Recently on Football Americas, he asked if it's smart for Pepe to go to Germany, and Klinsmann said no. Klinsmann recommended Pepe to stay at FC Dallas for another year or two. Then Klinsmann said a story where when he was 20, he was at Stuttgart. Arsene Wenger, Monaco wanted him, and he wanted to go. And the then Stuttgart president said no, and he stayed at Stuttgart for 2 more seasons, then went to Inter Milan, where he was a big hit at Inter Milan. And he said that was good for him to stay for 2 more seasons, to keep, as you know, Klinsmann's a baker, comes from a baker's family. Keep that bun in the oven for a couple of years. You know, so I
So
understand. So
okay,
I'm sort of
Klinsmann.
I'm in the
But I
middle
mean,
here.
well, but I'm saying the answer. I want to answer the question. Why do they go to Europe? And I guess the number one reason is Europe. People say it's the better. The competition is higher. It's where you want to prove yourself, where you want to go. Tom is saying I think most go to Europe for personal development.
That's
So
a
I
hot
guess
take because
it's
that's like private reasons.
it's
Interesting.
sort of like it's like an adventure. It's like studying abroad.
Yeah.
Um, but I think there's a sporting side to it where there's this idea of like, oh, the competition is higher, you're going to get better, which can talk about whether that's true or not always. And the other thing is money. There's more. You
Right.
you 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 make more money, and
Well, this is a complicated question to answer. I think it's a case. I think the real answer is everything is a case by case basis.
mhm,
The other thing is times have changed. Once upon a time, like an MLS player, or more likely like a South American player from Argentina or Brazil, they would win the title. They would win the scoring title in Brazil. They'd win the title for their team. They'd be 24, 23. And then Bayern München or Barcelona or someone, Valencia or someone, would just buy them to go start playing for them to be a scoring leader right away for them. And then that would work. That would happen. Ronaldo would go and Romario would go. And I mean, this is a very odd example, but I think Villarreal, spent $1.5 million on Martin Palermo, an Argentinian star from Boca once upon a time. And his job was, this was like 2000, 2001, something like that. And his job was to go and score and be a scorer. He was a proven goal scorer in Argentina. So that transfers straight to Spain. And it did. Nowadays, it's just not the case. Europe has propelled itself higher to the halves. And
mhm.
everywhere else in the world, including South America, is slowly going behind. And what's happened over the last 10 years is European clubs just want to buy all these players right out of the womb. They're just buying 16-year-olds now. They're not buying 23-year-olds. They're buying
Right.
16-year-olds. or as we're seeing with Ricardo Pepi, 18 to 19-year-olds, that kind of thing. The old philosophy was be a champion here first, win titles, prove yourself, then you can go to Europe and keep proving yourself in your prime. That's just not the case anymore. European clubs want you young, they want to develop you, they want to spend time with you, and they want you to grow there and essentially spend your entire career in Europe. Now, there are exceptions. We're seeing that's the philosophy of the elite clubs.
Right. Well, that's what I was going to say, that there is this sort of tier. There's a top tier of young talent that are on this trajectory, the elite club trajectory. They will find an academy early, and then that is sort of but everybody below that is not necessarily, good example from our, I like the NYCFC examples, Gio Reyna. There's a lot of people upset, a lot of fans upset. His dad was NYCFC's GM at the time, and people are like, how did he not sign? How did he not sign a contract for New York City FC? So now we let him go for nothing. But he was a teenager that was just clearly always the best player of the academy. He was on a different trajectory. For him to sign a contract for an MLS team would have just been a hindrance for him to sign somewhere else. So he just went to Dortmund very early, and now he's a first team player. Like, this is sort of the top tier of people, the Pulisics, the Gio Reynas of the world.
Do you feel if Gio Reyna stayed at NYCFC, he would have developed the same player he is right now?
No, I think he made the right decision for him, for sure. I think he's in this tier. I agree with you that this is, and I think that's sort of the point I'm getting to. It's a very case by case kind of thing, and the details matter a great deal, I think, in these questions. Like, for example,
the other side of the coin is Chris Mueller going to Hibernian, right? From Orlando City. We love Chris Mueller. He's a great player, kind of overlooked at the national team scale, I would say. I think he's really proven himself as a pretty damn good right winger. There's plenty of other options in this team away on, all the other. So he's sort of 5th, 6th, maybe 7th down in the depth chart there. But he's a very capable winger, very exciting guy, scoring goals. And he went to Hibernian. Now, that's not like that. I think, like what Tom said, that's very much like a cool, fun, personal adventure. Let's go to Edinburgh. Let's go to a club where I'm the only American there, and I have to represent my country, even though I'm not America's best and brightest. But I'm pretty decent. I'm like a professional, good, hardworking player. I don't think Hibernian is going to make him a better player. Maybe it will. Who knows? Maybe there's challenges that'll make him a better player. I don't think it'll make him a worse player. I think he'll still be a professional. But that's a move where it's just like, I just want to go to Scotland. I don't know if it'll necessarily help his national team. His national team aspirations, but I don't think it'll hinder it either. Yeah. So that's I think one of those, like,
I think that's the next point. The next point I was going to make is that all of Europe is not the same.
Right.
It's you have the top 5 leagues. France even being sort of quite a bit. Yeah. Quite a bit below. I think the average salary of Ligue 1 is only like about twice what it is in MLS. So it's not it's not that big a gap. And in Scotland, and this is not, we got into trouble with the Scottish fans on Scottish fans last week because we were kind of pulling.
Literally, during the podcast 60 minutes ago, another comment. A couple people being reasonable, but a couple people are like, "You're talking shite." Oh, you're talking shite.
I mean, I knew that James Sands' last name being Sanson, that wasn't going to be a deal breaker for him to go to Scotland. I understood. But by the way, the first sort of semi-official announcement of Sky Scotland did mention a chicken dinner in the so it's also not a thing. I just want to say, but
I know.
But knew
there's
that
a lot of back and forth. We're talking about sort of a lateral move or a step up, and fans are talking about like MLS is piss poor. There's a huge move up. It's like
But I think, but that is not. That's no longer. That's no longer really true, right? Like it's not. I mean, first of all, love to Scotland, and not to single them out. This is true for Sweden. This is true for Sweden, Switzerland, Belgium. all of these, and I think the Scots have it particularly hard because they take so much shit from the English,
from
about
down south.
the lack of the lack of quality in their league. So they must, two MLS dudes giving them grief. They must be like, we're not taking that.
Not from you.
not from
you.
Not from you. So fair play there. We understand. But the truth is, like there's Rangers and there's Celtic, and everybody else is probably below MLS level. And the list of people, like you're saying, Chris Mueller, there's Christian Ramirez is playing there, and Aberdeen, who's doing pretty well, and now Dante, another NYCFC academy grad, Dante Polvara, who just won.
The one he just signed with.
He just signed with Aberdeen also.
Aberdeen, that's right.
Yeah, he's going to be with Christian right from college. Right. So he also presumably was offered a homegrown contract from NYCFC that he declined. And for him, it's not a money thing. Like, I think Aberdeen's average salary is probably about what he would have gotten from NYCFC. I don't think but he just thinks, this is his trajectory, and we'll see if that really works. The list of Americans in Scotland historically is not historically, but over the last few years, because really MLS, it has to be said, this is a recent thing. In my time that I've really followed, I started following MLS pretty in more detail only in 2015 when NYCFC started, and over the last 7 years, it's really, the quality has risen. There's been the DPs, and there's been efforts made to kind of strengthen the middle of the roster, so the teams are more coherent. Tam and Gam, not to get into all that, but there is
we should explain to the Scottish fans what Tam and Gam.
Oh yeah, they would love that.
That'll take a whole hour.
We're gonna Tom is gonna fall asleep if we do that. Tom is saying Cameron Carter-Vickers has a fantastic season with Celtic. No call-ups from U.S. men's national team. It's true. It does not seem
should change.
Maybe, but I'm
so real quick.
But I'm saying it's not. No, let me.
And Celtic are an exception,
right?
So Rangers and Celtic aren't an exception.
But in general, I think what Tom is saying, and I agree with it. It's like being in Scotland is not a ticket into the national team. It's not a league. The mix Discaroo days are behind us, where playing anywhere in Europe would guarantee you a spot on the national team. He was in Sweden, right? Or in no, it was Norway. I think it was Norway or Sweden.
He's playing in the Cypriot. He's playing in Cyprus, I believe.
He was it was weird because he's played everywhere. He played in Dubai. He was he's been around. Yeah. I mean, it was back then. I was just thinking about this today. When he arrived at NYCFC, not a DP contract. It was oh my God, this is amazing that we got him, because he was this hype.
He was a national team.
He was a national team guy. He was a
national team caliber player. Yeah, which
MLS team. I mean, was he though? He scored the first goal for us. The first goal ever, and we were oh my God, he's amazing. I put his name on my shirt. I bought one of his stupid baseball mix Yankee style looking hats that said mix on them that he had made. I was I was ready to be a fan, and then it was what's going on? He's got is he playing out of position? He doesn't, and it took us 2 years to be it turns out he's not all that good. There's nothing. Yeah. There's no real.
He's just not as focused. He might have been a little bit. He sort of might have lost his focus a little bit. With players, you never know. Some players are amazing, and then something happens, and they're not amazing anymore.
The next point I was going to make. This is a huge thing that people don't often talk about. People often sort of think of these players as these chess pieces. You take them, you take them from here and you put them here, and it's kind of the same thing. But it's not the case. It's, for most of us, there's a few players who are, we were saying there's this top tier of talent. These guys who are just amazing, but for most pro players, fit, relationship, how do you fit into a system, how do you get along, it's very, very important, and it's not always replicable. So if you're
Yeah.
If you're a guy like
the environment you're in, yeah.
Yeah, if you're a guy like Jimmy Sands, James, who's made it into the first team, he's got a regular spot. I don't know. Maybe you should think about it. Should think twice before you just kind of up and leave, thinking, "Oh, it can only get better." It can't just get better. It can get worse. And there's a lot of stories like that.
You're sad because you lost him, but I think overall it's a good move for him because it just challenges him. I know you'd rather have Jimmy Sands. I'm not saying you wouldn't.
I mean, I would have rather.
CFC, that's fine too.
I would have been happy
while the iron's hot. When the opportunity comes.
Yeah, but this is not a hot iron. That's the point I'm making. I don't think an 18-month loan. This deal smacks of. And listen, of course I'm biased. Of course I'm sad to see him go. I would have selfishly loved for him to go in the Bundesliga somewhere. I think this also this slots him sort of into this tier of guys who are like not quite good enough for the national team, and he's going to be like, he's now on a trajectory where like in 2-3 years we'll be like, oh yeah, that guy. Oh yeah, I remember he played in the Gold Cup that one time. And I don't know. It's also 18-month loan. It's like, why an 18-month loan? This seems designed to accommodate. Seems designed to accommodate Rangers.
Yeah, I was gonna say that could be maybe the Rangers, because with COVID and stuff, European clubs.
I think. Well, I mean, there's it's the Claudio Reyna, Gio van Bronckhorst connection, because he's the coach now, and I think probably he feels like, oh, he has an in, and the coach wants him.
You think Claudio Reyna from Austin, who's at Austin now, is hooking up NYCFC players with? Let's go.
Well, I mean, I think there is. I'm sure this is. You don't have to be a conspiracy theorist. Claudio Reyna, he started the academy. Sands, he played with Gio. They are the same. They were
also weakening your opposing teams in your own league is also a good strategy.
For Claudio,
so for Austin, they don't have to play against James Sands.
This is the long game. No, but I think and Gio Reyna is named Gio because of Gio van Bronckhorst. They're very. Right. They're very close, those two. So I don't think you don't have to be particularly conspiracy minded to think that this is somehow this is how this came to be, perhaps. And maybe James was like, this seems like a good move because the coach wants me. But Gio van Bronckhorst, he just got there. He could get fired in 3 months, and then poor Jimmy is sitting there.
Here we go. I think I read somewhere that Sands said it was a childhood dream to play for Rangers. Yeah, perhaps.
Oh, interesting.
Maybe
okay.
Maybe his grandparents are from Glasgow.
I think he has. I mean, but this is sort of the point I'm making, is that I just don't love it. I just don't love this. I don't love this move. I'm not anti him going anywhere. I'm not anti people going to Europe, but I think these moves one should evaluate on a case-by-case basis, and this one I don't love. And
I understand what you're saying. I would love to offer a little bit of a counterpoint of willy-nilly heading to Europe.
Okay.
Now, this is from a New York Red Bulls perspective, from MLS perspective. There's a type of player, especially at New York Red Bulls, we've used them over the years. There's a type of player I love. And it's a type of player that become a great MLS sort of lifer, a great MLS club player. Not necessarily lifer because they went to Europe, but the recipe to be becoming a great MLS club player. There's a guy named Mike Grella who played for the New York Red Bulls. Grella Gino, we called him.
Nutmegged Frank Lampard, famously.
Nutmegged Frank Lampard, right? Mike Grella, I think, was from the New York Red Bulls Youth Academy many years ago. I think he's from Jersey. He left early, went off to Europe. He was kind of a journeyman, lost his place, didn't play much, did the thing you're talking about, did the bad path. He went over there, maybe lost his love for soccer a little bit, and then flushed out. And then New York Red Bulls signs those players on a free. Luis Robles came that way. Mike Grella, like I just said. Sasha Klestjen is a good example of a player like that. Sasha Klestjen had a great career in Belgium. But, it didn't take him. He didn't win a Champions League or anything. And then when it was done, he was in his prime, and he came back. And those guys can become club leaders. Because I think what Europe does, if you go to Greece or wherever you're going, even if it isn't giving you tippy-top Champions League week in and week out competition, it forces you to be consistent. And I think it does improve your professionalism a little bit. Eric Winalda has this old story where, like, I think maybe when he's at Bochum, they like lost a game to the last minute goal. He just went in the locker room. He's like, "Oh man, that was crazy, right, guys?" And then someone threw a shoe at his face, and the cleat like broke skin, and the player yelled at him. He's like, "We just dropped 3 points, damn it!" Like yelling at him because freaking every minute, every point counts, even if you're in the second division. Every minute counts, and that has to improve your consistency as a player. That has to force you to always know how to be at your best. So my one criticism for an MLS system was like, you're allowed to go sleepy bye-bye for 10 games. You know, it doesn't necessarily mean you lose your spot, you know. And you have this mentality of like, well, it's playoffs, time to do my A game. Where in Europe, every week has to be your A game. So that right there, I think, helps your mentality a little bit. And I think we've had a lot of players. I know the Rangers fan made fun of Emerson Hyndman being one guy that commented is like, you gave us one of your best players, and he was a washout, Emerson Hyndman. And I'm like, okay, I don't think he was one of our best players, but whatever. Emerson Hyndman's a good example. He spent time in Europe. He's a good, solid player. Now he's a solid player for Atlanta, a great club player. You know, they don't all have to be Ronaldo, but I do believe it does make you like. It's very rare for someone to go to Europe and after a few seasons of Europe can't hack it anywhere in the United States. Usually they can at least get a spot on an MLS club somewhere. Bobby Wood's a good example of that. I know he's still working his way off, getting minutes, but a few seasons he lost his way in Europe, and I think he's a really good quality MLS player, and I think there's a lot to come from him the next season. You know what I'm saying? So that would be my counter of what you're...
Okay, let's nail it down. What's the over-under on Bobby Wood goals next season?
I think he's going to get 10. Maybe
no
over
way.
10. Yeah.
I'll take the under.
But even
I'll take the under.
Comes off the bench, he scored that playoff goal. He's still a usable player for your club. Even if he's a squad player. You know what I'm saying? Like he has a certain professionalism to him. Here we go from Tom. Biggest problem with ProRel.
The ProRel. Oh boy.
Here, the Schnitzel Boys, we have a big ProRel project planned.
Yes.
Coming TBD.
We're gonna break it down. We have thoughts. We have thoughts about ProRel. And so does everybody else.
So that would be my counter of going to like a Hibernian or an Aberdeen or a recent player.
Well, I don't think Rangers is a good example for that though, because they don't really.
It is not.
And
James Sands is a young prospect who's maybe one of our better center halves. Right?
I guess I just thought of him as better than Emerson Hyndman. Maybe he is just Emerson. He's just a different version of Emerson Hyndman. I thought maybe his ceiling was higher than that. I guess.
Well, no disrespect to Emerson Hyndman, that's not what I'm saying. I think he can go to Rangers. Maybe he can earn it. He has to fight for his spot. The center backs are kind of settled. Maybe he can earn a center back spot, be a key figure, kind of like Cameron Carter-Vickers. Really get in there, become a regular. What if the future U.S. men's national team back two is a Rangers and a Celtic center back? The best center backs for the respective clubs. I just want to see. I would love to see that.
I don't think Sands' best position is center back anyway. I think he's a 6. He's a 6.
Yeah, well, we need a 6. We need to do.
Well, Greg doesn't
shadow Tyler Adams.
That's where I saw him. Greg doesn't agree. He only played him there like for 20 minutes against Honduras, and
it was a rough 20 minutes, my friend.
He played well anyway. I think there has to be a continual reevaluation of where how MLS and Europe compare. And it is gonna, I mean, there's no question it's different status over there, like Rangers fans, clearly. James Sands just won MLS Cup. I bet he can still walk down Broadway in broad daylight without too many people bothering him. That will not be the case in Scotland. There's certainly a huge difference in status and how much people care about it. Even just, Scottish people on Reddit commenting on our kind of half-baked Scotland
apart.
ideas.
I read it on YouTube.
And so there, it's not. I'm not saying there are no differences, but it's gonna the discussion is gonna continue. It's changing, and it's going to continue to change. And there's no one size fits all. The answer is not like, oh, go to Europe, definitely. Don't go to, it's a case by case thing. Dante Polvara decided Aberdeen is a spot. We'll see how that goes. I don't like this Rangers thing for Jimmy Sands. We'll see how that goes. Jurgen Locadia just went the other way. He was a very Dutch striker. He played for Brighton Hove Albion very successfully, and played for a while, and then moved to FC Cincinnati in a DP spot, very highly touted, and that didn't work.
Terrible.
And now he went to Bochum. He's sitting on the bench in the Bundesliga on a free. What?
We'll see how he does in the Bundesliga.
We'll see how he does.
What I will say, that's the point I was gonna make. A few years ago, I noticed it dried up in MLS. Like 5 years ago, I noticed like no one was going to Europe. This was right before the youth boom that happened a couple of years ago. It was just dry. Like people were playing in MLS. The national team was made up. Like the only Americans in Europe were hyphenated Americans, like the German Americans, that kind of stuff. And like Jeff Cameron, he was like the only American playing in England or something.
Right.
And then so I was just wondering, like, what happened to the Clint Dempseys and the Brian McBrides and what happened to Americans? That just stopped for a while.
Yeah.
And I'm very happy to say that those floodgates have opened in a way we've never seen before. So now it's the exact opposite.
Yeah. Well,
now,
I think
there
was
an article about Barcelona and Real Madrid fighting over a 9-year-old playing in the Philadelphia Union Academy. That's crazy. I mean, yeah, good luck. That's way too. But I love the fact that like right now America's kind of the hot ticket, and A, we've earned it, and B, I'm excited about it. It probably will cool off at some point, but enjoy it while it lasts.
Well, the proof has to be in the pudding. We'll have to see. We'll have to see. Because all these people we're talking about are sort of data points in this ongoing discussion. We're going to see how Sands does. We're going to see how Pepe does. We're going to see how Locadia does. We're going to see how Polvar does. All of these, Chris Mueller, Christian Ramirez. No, we forget about. But Chris Mueller is a good example.
Great. He's doing great. He was at Minnesota United, and now he's where is he in Scotland? He's like one of their better scorers.
He's in Aberdeen. He's at Dante. Yeah, and but I don't know. Chris Mueller, he was a starter in Orlando. I don't know. Was that the right move? We'll see.
That was just a Schnitzel Boys video on YouTube. Thanks for joining us. If you like that one, we've got a couple other ones right over here. And if you like that one, don't be afraid to subscribe, like, and ring that bell.
It's the Schnitzel Boys, it's the